Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 13 of Season 1 2024 of Endurance for Amateurs, our second race at Italy this season here at Autodromo Enzo A. Dino Ferrari, or more briefly, Imola. Tonight is brought to you by Ninja Botanicals and AlienAwards.net, and coming up is a 90-minute race with GTD and GTP class cars. Last week was another close one in the GTPs late that saw Jay Smart lead almost the entire race and successfully fend off a last lap charge from Paul Skip, who finished second. Jay Smart earning his first win on the season. Nicholas Paletti rounded out the GTP podium. Skip slightly extends his championship lead to a mere 5 points over Nick Terrell, with Nick Paletti closing up to just 2 points back from Terrell. Without surprise, Ken Huber won GT3, chalking the running count to 11 wins in a row, with Josh Doty earning his 6th podium on the season, and Travis Bell in 3rd, appearing on the podium for the first time so far this season. Huber's total increased slightly to 513 after a third drop week has now come into play, and we may already be in the realm of locking up the championship this early. Josh Doty moves to 2nd overall, with Tyler Langenberg still in 3rd, 16 points up on Travis Rowe. GTDB was a return to the top step for Jesse Coffey, earning an overall podium to boot. Zach Nurnberger and Kevin Burkus each snagged their 4th podiums of the year. After an absence, James Foreman's class lead shrinks to just 28 points on Coffey, with Jack Lucas, Nathan Westland, and Berquist still duking it out for 3rd currently. We have a difficult track here tonight at Imola. It's a popular track, one that a lot of drivers probably have experience with, but difficult throughout the entire lap. A lot of chicanes, which is not something that they really dealt with in the last race or maybe even couple races. So it'll be interesting to see how the drivers handle this race here today. I saw lots of incidents during practice, lots of mistakes, places to go off. Traffic is going to be difficult through here, and it's luckily a decently long lap. Technically 19 turns, although at least 5, debatably 6 of them are not really turns, so it's really more of a 12, 13 turn kind of circuit. But you can see there on that track map, Huber right now halfway through, and he's already made his way through a couple of the difficult chicanes of this lap. That was just through Aqua Minerale coming up into Variante Alta, and places at least where drivers have some runoff. It is a grade 1 track, so a lot of runoff ability for the drivers to probably stay out of the wall, but we'll see how that works. Jay Smart putting in an absolute burner of a lap so far. 4 purple sectors, looking for 5. I mean, I think he's the first person out here on track, so 5 purple sectors. Gonna go to the top. Paul Skip finishing at the exact same time as him, almost a second back. Drivers who were very close, not just in pace during qualifying, but in the race as well. Last week, before Paul Skip made a mistake on the final lap, just trying to get that position from Jay Smart. He did not lose back further than 2nd in that race. John Kelly with a lap in, 9/10 back. A lot of the GT3s now coming across the line here. Tyler Langenberg's got a mixture of a lap here. Currently just 300s back from Ken Huber, while Josh Doty actually jumps him there. Let's switch this to overall gap. You can see now the top 3 just separated by 0.2 seconds. Meanwhile, back to 4th, Greg Holland, the highest of the B-class drivers so far, with 1.1 seconds back. 3 of those Porsches there at the top of the GTD B-class as well. Jesse Coffey coming across the line here. Does he have a... Yes, 2nd place. Jesse Coffey, again, the winner of last week's race and the 2nd place in the GTDB championship. Now 2nd overall ahead of Ken Huber, only behind Josh Doty, who, again, Doty has 6 podiums so far this season, which is 2nd most in the A class. Had a really strong season so far, looking to continue that run. He's had a couple races where he's been able to push Huber late, and he's maybe hoping to have this race be the victory opportunity, but a lot of laps still to come in. Paul Skip's got 1 purple sector on this lap. Where is this going to put him overall? I don't know if it'll be enough to claim first with only 1 purple, but we'll see what that lap is. Waiting for that to show up on the board. Maybe going off track there in that lap, so not showing up on the board, and potentially a mistake being made. Ken Huber, purple in that 3rd sector as well. Yellow in the 4th, but a couple greens. He does not need to improve by much to get up there to the top. I think that is within track limits there of that curb. I think the curb counts as the track, as you see him going out a little bit wide, and Ravazza coming across the line as Nicholas Paletti takes the lead in GTP. Where does Ken Huber place himself? Is this an improvement? It's a couple purples, and he does. He improves to 1st place, 800ths ahead of Josh Doty now. Like I said, Nick Paletti on that last lap, jumping up to 1st for the GTPs, just less than a 10th separating those two. Jack Lucas now replacing Jesse Coffey as the GTDB leader. just a tenth and a half off Ken Huber's really strong time that he just put in there, and about half a tenth up on Jesse Coffey behind. No other B-Class drivers even competing closely at this point with these two right now in this qualifying session. Travis Rowe, he's trying to put in his first time. Let's see where this puts him. Doesn't have a time on the board so far. Travis Rowe, the 4th overall runner in GTD-A, and that is up to 6th place for him, just 3/10 off. This is not a short track, but we've got some really close qualifying times here. Jay Smart may be returning to the top step of the podium here. 3 purples, surely. Yeah, 4/10. Huge jump in time. And Paul Skip just crossed the line at the exact same time. Not an improvement, actually, then drops down with Nick Terrell's time that he just put in there of a 1:30.3. Jay Smart, I think, done with qualifying here, although he's in a very safe position if any other drivers do have the capability of trying to catch up to him. 4/10 up on Paletti, which was a strong lap at the time. Interesting to see if anybody else has any pace. I mean, Jay Smart's in. John Kelly's not out on track. The other drivers are out on track. I don't know if they have another lap to go or if their laps are going quickly. James Foreman looks to be improving right now. He's currently in 12th. Again, the leader of GTD-B by now 28 points after a missed race. Let's see where this qualifying performance puts him. Currently in 12th, 1.4 seconds back. Where is he going to show up after this lap? Comes across the line. It looks like an improvement by about a second provisionally. Let's see where that puts him. Oh, maybe not a legal lap. We're still not coming up on the board. So I think not a legal lap for him there. Zach Nurnberger puts in his first lap of the session in 16th. We'll be looking to improve from there. But I didn't see him in the practice session, so he may not have had a lot of time to run up with this car. Adrian Garcia here in 13th, crossing the line. Todd Schneider currently in 18th, crossed the line with a 1:46.5. Got closer to that Zach Nurnberger's time there. Don't know if he has more laps in him. Paul Skip, a few green sectors, but mostly yellow on that lap, and I don't think that was going to do it. So Paul Skip, the leader, maybe starting out of the top 3 here in just a 5-car field. Be a shocking result to start the race at the least, and 4 of those GTPs in that Porsche, so yet again proving to be the most popular car. Sheldon Rosenbaum right now 2 greens, 3 greens, improving on his time. A driver who had a pretty good podium streak going. His first 3 races he attended here, he got a podium. Last couple races haven't been as friendly for him, so looking to return to form here. 7th place would still be a good qualifying position, top of the 3 Ferraris in this field so far, but see if he can extend even further up the field. Just setting personal bests here throughout this entire lap. Don't be looking for a pole position here with no purples yet, but very strong lap for Rosenbaum, who's already in a good position. Where is this going to place him? Was in 7th place, 1 yellow sector there at the end, and an improvement of time, but just ever so slightly, not enough to get to Travis Rowe there in 6th. So he is going to stay in that spot. Langenberg, no improvement in his position, although improving in time. Jack Lucas crossing the line, doesn't look like an improvement as well. Aaron Claybaugh, looking for him up a couple spots. So Aaron Claybaugh late with just 45 seconds left in this session, able to put together a good lap, while most of these drivers not able to put in their best lap here under these conditions. Nick Terrell might be trying to claim a spot from Paletti, but he's got 8/10 to make up here. 1 yellow sector. I don't know how this last sector is going to turn out for him or how much he's gained in those 3 greens, but this would be a mighty improvement to jump up a spot here. Does improve by a good 4/10 there, but still 4 more tenths to catch up to Paletti and Smart. So 3rd place is where Nick Terrell likely is going to be qualifying. Looks like drivers out, but I don't think anybody's going to be able to finish their lap. So Nuremberger and Bergquist maybe both having laps still to go, but no time to run them. So that is our qualifying session with time running out. We will take this warm-up period, and we'll be right back with you after we verify these results. right, we are back, and on pole position, Jay Smart for the 4th time on this season with a 129.5, less than a tenth back to Nick Paletti, and Nick Terrell rounding out the top 3. Paul Skip, your championship leader, there in 4th, and John Kelly in 5th. Ken Huber with another pole position on the season. That's pole number 9. Josh Doty, and then Jack Lucas, pole position for the B class. That is only his 2nd podium on the season. 5 different podium sitters so far this season for GTDB. Jesse Coffey, Tyler Langenberg, and Travis Rowe round out the top 6. Following them, Sheldon Rosenbaum, Travis Bell, Matthew Wyckoff, Aaron Claybaugh, and rounds out the top 10. Mauricio Parada, Adrian Garcia, Greg Holland, James Foreman, Kevin Berquist, Dan Barnett, Zach Nurnberger, and Todd Schneider. And that is the entire field. The no passing zone is going to be through turn 4, which turn 1 technically actually happens before the start line, or right basically at the start line. The turn 4 will be the exit of the Tamburello chicane, which is that first chicane you see there on the right side of that track map. So we have one start from the back penalty, which was John Kelly, although he's already in the back. So he's going to be starting at the back. Didn't matter how he qualified. Jay Smart is going to lead the field around here for the start of this race. And no passing through turn 4, but Jay Smart, first win last week. Can he duplicate it here? And he has tough competition with Nicholas Paletti behind. He's waiting on that green. It's a late checkered flag here. Waiting on it as they're in line. Still not getting the green. They're crossing the line, the finish line right now. Start line still coming up, and the green flag seems to be waving, so he's on the go. Jay Smart leading the crew into turn 1. No passing through this opportunity here. We have Mauricio Parada in the pits, and Kevin Berquist maybe not taking the start of this race. We'll have to look at to see what happened there with either of those guys. Looks like Parada starting from the pits. Jay Smart leads them through the Tamburello chicane, now heading up to the Villeneuve chicane. And again, a lot of opportunities to make mistakes here on these cold tires into Tosa, and he's not too threatened behind. Heading their way through turn 8. Looks like Zach Nurnberger's made up a spot on Dan Burnett. He's made up 2 spots, actually, so it looks like he's got around... Kevin Berquist, I think the driver that lost 3 positions, not starting this race. Heading their way down the hill into Aqua Minerale, very tough sector of this track. Trying not to get too many off tracks, too many incidents in this race. It'll be something the drivers will have to manage throughout this whole race. Right now, Jay Smart managing this race well. Not struggling from behind too much into Variante Alta. Another one where you really got to pick your braking point carefully, and only one little bit left of the track. The Ravazza double left in the final quarter of turn 19, which is not much of a corner for any of these cars. And Jay Smart will have led the start of this race. Again, he led basically every lap of the last race. The only thing he was missing was just a different fuel strategy to keep that Grand Chelem. But Jay Smart looking to lead the start of this race. Half a second back to Nick Paletti. To an interval C there. Obviously fastest lap for Smart starting this race. Very close further back in this GT3 field. Not a lot of positions swapped so far. See, we can see that move that Zach Nurnberger made on Dan Barnett earlier. So Barnett, you can see kicking up grass there on the exit. So Zach Nurnberger taking advantage of that, making the move into the chicane. Well done there. The draft not doing a lot for these cars. Adrian Garcia got his way past Aaron Claybaugh. They're still fighting side by side into the Tamburello chicane. Claybaugh aggressively taking the inside, and he maintains that position. Great defense for Claybaugh, who at one point during that straight had lost the nose to Garcia. So strong to stay in front. Although you can see there they've lost a little bit of touch of Matthew Wyckoff in front. And wide for Claybaugh, and Garcia's going to get through, and potentially Holland as well. Holland stays back, so Garcia pouncing on that opportunity. Oh, and a spin just further back. I don't think there was contact before the spin, but a spin for James Foreman. Zach Nurnberger involved there as well. Yeah, James Foreman with at least the start of the incident. I don't know if there was the collision here. Let's see. James Foreman in the green Porsche, heading through Tosa. Nurnberger behind. Oh, I think there maybe was a touch there between Nurnberger and Foreman. Not much of one, but enough to send him around. And good avoiding action for that Ferrari there of may have been Mauricio Parada. Both drivers able to get going again with minimal damage to the car, but unfortunately a lot of lost time. Back there now in 16th and 17th. The only driver below is Kevin Bergquist, who we do not have in this race. Interesting to see, again, a guy who at least was here for the practice session and is competing well in the GT3 standings, fighting for that third place spot right now after a podium last week. We'll see if we get a reason on that. Up front, the GTPs, no positions changed. All still where they were. Paul Skip closest to trying to make a move to Nick Terrell ahead. All line astern for the top almost 10, top 9 through the start of this lap, and they are getting real close through these chicanes, but they're not really trying to make any moves at this point. Villeneuve making their way into Tosa, and we still have the top 9 in how they qualified. Nobody making any bold moves. Rosenbaum thinking about something on the inside of Robe there, but no gap able to be made. Foreman climbing up through the field a little bit so far, able to get a spot on Todd Schneider. And Paul Skip is getting real close to Nick Terrell here in the GTPs. And these are the two guys, despite the fact that they're 3rd and 4th here in this race, these are the top 2 in the championship, and especially Nick Terrell. He's trying to make sure to not let Paletti get into this battle. I mean, if Paletti finishes 2nd here, that would, I believe, excluding safety point bonuses, I believe that would give him the advantage over Nick Terrell, swapping the position. So Terrell cannot afford, especially, to let Paul Skip get by him and potentially increase that space between the two drivers. But not making a move as of yet. Kent Huber still at the front, but defending from Josh Doty. Doty's still staying within a second. Lucas, who's the B-class leader and 3rd overall right now, 1.7 seconds back. So he's falling back a little bit. He's starting this train here with Josh Doty, starting to pull away a little bit and matching Ken Huber's pace there on that last lap, with Ken Huber setting the fastest lap, and actually Garcia besting that, only driver into the 43s so far. And he's the tail end of this long line we have here. You see that neon Lamborghini back there. That is Garcia's car. But a lot of drivers competing up here at the top without trying to make anything too drastic happen early. But also the other interesting thing too is that, I mean, Ken Huber's first. We've seen that before, but I think Doty probably closer than we've usually seen. Huber step out to at least a comfortable 2.5 lead before starting to let him close back in a little bit, as I think he does some fuel saving during the start of the race. But no such opportunity so far. Only 7/10 right now between those top 2 spots. Jesse Coffey just ahead of these guys, really pressuring Lucas for this B-class win. Coffey was the B-class leader for a good portion of the start of this season before James Foreman overtook him. And especially with Foreman's absence last week, and of course the unfortunate incident that we just saw a couple laps ago with Zach Nurnberger, another opportunity for Coffey to pounce and really try to gain some advantage over James Foreman. It's definitely not over. A lot of races to go, and I believe still one more drop week to be calculated until the end of the season. Again, the standings shaken up a little bit with that 3rd drop week added in. And it did reduce a little bit the benefit that Jesse Coffey may have got from last week, as of course James Foreman gets a drop like from last. Oh, Matthew Wyckoff, is that Wyckoff? He gains a spot. Oh, he was not the driver off. The driver off is Travis Bell, who is still trying to get going. Lucky to not run into the wall there, but was there a collision? But first, let's check with Adrian Garcia, who is making a move on Matthew Wyckoff. Wyckoff at least had to slow down for whatever that incident was. I don't know if he was involved. Garcia making the move stick into Tamburello. He had Claybaugh fend him off there a couple laps ago, but able to make the move done there. And it looks like a little bit of challenge now into Villeneuve, and he's going to pull out of it. So Wyckoff not making an attempt on the, and a spin for Garcia. He just slides out a little bit. Wyckoff able to avoid the collision. I doubt they touched before that. Where did Wyckoff go? Wyckoff is reading to me as out. I don't know what happened to him. I don't see his car. He avoided the incident for from AJ Garcia, but I don't know what happened. Let's try to take a look at the replay for what happened to Wyckoff. You see Wyckoff following closely through Villeneuve. They touched. They did collide. Goes into the sand, and then he's gone. I mean, that was a very minor collision. Just had the slightest amount of damage to that front bumper. But yeah, so there was a collision there, though. That was not caused by Garcia losing control. I think Garcia's car should be fine, given the lightness with which they seemed to collide. But let's look a little bit further back to the incident we saw there in Ravazza with Travis Bell. See what happened to him there. He got hit by Wyckoff. I don't know. He looked like he was going really slow through there. Let's take another view of this and see if it becomes clear. He was going really slow. I don't know if there was some sort of issue that was going on with his equipment there, but oh, we got a lot going on. We've got a couple drivers off track. We got both Greg Holland and Risu Parada going off track. Here's Greg Holland's off. Ooh, and lucky to not keep that going, slamming into the wall. Parada getting by right then, but I think that he also goes off track trying to avoid that incident. Or he just had the exact same issue. He just too much speed, but just didn't have the oversteer. And we also had an incident for Todd Schneider. He's got the GTP of Paul Skip looming in the background. Just missed his braking point into Variante Alta, I think, but unfortunately losing control of the car there on the exit. So a few things that we've had happen there. Mauricio Parada right now very close to the driver in front. Again, Parada starting from the pits. I don't know why. I don't know if maybe he just missed. He seemed to be quick to get his car, so I don't know if he just missed the queuing period, but he is here in this race. He qualified in 11th. He's now back to his 11th place spot. So in 10 minutes, already able to reclaim those spots that he lost, but he's not going to reclaim the time that he lost to those guys up ahead of him right now. But trying to get to James Foreman here. Foreman himself trying to climb up a lot. He's actually up 4 from where he started. So some incidents that have happened around him have benefited him a little bit despite the early spin that he had. By recovering well so far. Langenberg close with Coffey again. Coffey's starting to fall back a little bit from Jack Lucas. He is going to be under attack here into the Tamburello chicane, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to defend or not. The draft just doesn't seem to be doing basically anything for Langenberg right now, which is helping out Coffey. Yes, Coffey's going to be able to comfortably stay ahead. I mean, I know Lucas was a second up the track, but you'd think Langenberg would be able to suck up a little bit faster than that, just given how close they were. Travis Rowe equally distanced behind him. And at the front of the field for the GTPs, they're coming up right behind. You can see right there. That's Nicholas Paletti, who's now dropped the gap to 0.4 seconds as they're making their way through some difficult traffic here. Through Tosa, and there's no long bit of track other than that main quote-unquote straight where they can get by cars. And look at that. He's going to have to get stuck behind Jesse Coffey. Wanted to get by. Couldn't quite do it. Able to sneak through the inside here. Travis Rowe almost taking advantage of the helter-skelter pandemonium they just had there, but wasn't quite able to get a tire alongside Langenberg to deserve some room. Looking back at Paletti now, again, 3/10, 4/10, not too far apart as they are finally making their way through the last bit of traffic. They're coming up on the last 2 cars, Josh Doty and Ken Huber, who are leading this race and starting to, again, pull away from Jack Lucas. Doty's still within a second and just dropped out a little bit there due to the lapping traffic, but Doty within about a second of Ken Huber, with Lucas 2 seconds or more back. Rowe very close to Langenberg. Langenberg almost made, or seemed like he'd be able to make an attack into Tamburello last lap on Coffey. Can Rowe make an attack on Langenberg? He's even closer this time. He's going to take the outside. Langenberg defending the inside. I think that's probably the smart decision, given that I didn't think, that Rowe would be able to shoot up enough around the outside to make that move happen like we saw Aaron Claybaugh do earlier in this race. It did give Sheldon Rosenbaum just the slightest hint of making a move. Couldn't do it there, but close to stay with the pack. And then just a little bit behind that, we have Paul Skip now lapping these guys. So Skip now 6 seconds back. Oh, and Parada having an incident as he's in the pits. Let's see what incident this was, but whatever this is going to be a little gruesome. Oh, on the walls and far away, but unfortunately found a way to hit him. Most of these drivers having incidents have been lucky enough to stay out of the walls, and unfortunately not for Mauricio Parada there. We'll see if he rejoins this race, but starting from the pits, climbing up to where he qualified, and now unfortunately back down to the pits. Only Kevin Bergquist and Matthew Wyckoff behind. Off track a little bit for Garcia there as he goes deep into the Aqua Minerale chicane. This camera angle doesn't quite show the massive elevation change that happens through there. So we'll have an onboard at some point to really show how dramatic that section is, but it's very exciting. Which, speaking of exciting right here, Langenberg still trying to get to Coffee. He had to defend from Travis Rowe last lap. He's got 6/10 back, so but we even 2/10, even 1.5 tenths that we saw from Travis Rowe last lap, it wasn't able to be done. They couldn't make the move stick. So can Jesse Coffey just drive like normal down the straight and not have to worry? He does. Didn't even have to defend. Didn't have to worry. Adrian Garcia into the pits, and he is at the back of the field now. I don't know. There's no incident that I see for Garcia, so I have no idea what caused that early pit stop. And he's out. He's out of this race. So lost 4 drivers already, and 3 of them A-class drivers who were doing well. Nürnberger, who had made a move on Dan Burnett on the very first lap, is just now back up to the spot where he can make that move again after the early kerfluffle with James Foreman. Let's take a look at how that move was done. We have not seen a lot of moves down the straight, although I think Dan Burnett not fighting it too hard. Yeah, basically lets him get entirely in front by the time they get into the Tambor chicane. So, unfortunately, not a useful metric for us to understand how these drivers are going to be able to make their way around, because Barnett giving him the position there, it seems like it's not possible to make the pass into there, as we've seen only a couple drivers do so. I mean, Aaron Claybaugh even got passed down the straight and still got the spot back. So I don't know what the answer will be for these guys. I mean, that is the clear-cut #1 passing opportunity just by fundamental thinking and the difficulty to get around drivers in the rest of these corners. And maybe that's why we have our GTPs in the exact same order they qualified, and the top 7 GTDs in that exact same order as well. Josh Doty, who had lost a few tenths to Ken Huber, looks like he is maybe not been able to reclaim that after the traffic cost him a little bit more than it cost Ken. Starting to see gaps increase throughout the field outside of the battle for 3rd in A-class right now. We're also trying to get up to those top GTDB guys. So far, again, I haven't seen the position swap. We've seen them close. We've seen them within 3/10. I mean, that is a stressful experience to be going more than a couple laps within just a few tenths of each other, just praying that nobody else makes a mistake and goes too deep. And we've seen a couple drivers do that elsewhere in the field, but these guys up at the front keeping it very clean. But I imagine there's a little bit of frustration for really everybody outside of Coffee right now in this grouping, because and Jesse Coffey's going to let him by. Just the slightest mistake for Coffey going wide, and I think maybe he was trying a little too hard to not earn that slowdown or to earn that incident point for an off track, because he nearly lost control of that and probably lost more time. Let's take a look at how that move looked for both Langenberg and Travis Rowe getting through. Actually, never mind, already losing control through the uphill of Piratella. Nearly doing a pirouette there, but able to save the car, heading down in Aqua Minerale. So Coffey will continue to move on, but 2 spots of positions now given up to Jack Lucas there. And while Coffey is in 2nd place, the driver who is in 3rd in the GTDB class is Jack Lucas. He's 22 points further back from Jesse Coffey, but any points gained here are going to be important. Still with a good number of races to go. As far as looking at the upcoming schedule, we're at Imola, and we have Road Atlanta, Hockenheim, Spa, Barcelona, Interlagos, Le Mans, and Watkins Glen. That is a lot of races to be chipping away at a lead or just a position in front of you. And Coffey and Lucas both chipping away at that James Foreman lead. Foreman is moving his way up, though. He's up in 9th place now. So we'll see. He's 3.8 seconds back from Aaron Claybaugh. Can he get even more spots? A driver we typically know for really strong race pace. So qualified a little bit far back. So, I mean, he didn't lose as many positions, I guess, from the incident as he could have. But still definitely starting off on the back foot. And Zach Nurnberger as well has followed him up there. Nurnberger's up 7 from where he started, despite the incident that took them both to the very back of the field at the time. But lots of mistakes throughout the field have brought them a little bit closer together. Sheldon Rosenbaum starting to close in on Jesse Coffey. Maybe Coffey losing a slight amount of confidence there after the near spin and losing a couple positions. Looked like a kind of defensive line into Variante Alta. Didn't quite utilize all of the track there. And sure enough, faster exit for Sheldon Rosenbaum as he's closing in on nearly 4/10 to Jesse Coffey in front. So is a move looming for Rosenbaum in that wonderful blue and black Ferrari. The number 1 Ferrari in the race with Aaron Claybaugh 1 position back but 13 seconds, and then Mauricio Parada out of this race. So only 3 of them being represented here today. A lot of Porsches in the field, but none of them doing too hot outside of Travis Rowe, who's up there in 5th. All of the other Porsches in the race, 9th through 12th in the GTD field. But Porsche looking a lot better in the GTPs as it's 4 of the 5 cars. And Nick Terrell, the only driver using something other than a Porsche in that GTP class. The gaps up at the GTP field not looking encouraging for a tight race later on in tonight. 5 seconds between all of the top 4 guys. Nick Terrell is starting to close down on Paletti a little bit, as it looks like Paletti maybe making a mistake or having traffic. Maybe, yeah, it looks like maybe the timing of that was some bad traffic as he lost another 2 seconds on Jay Smart there. Yeah, you can see there, Smart was exactly 2 seconds faster in that first sector, which is not a very long sector, only 20 seconds. So traffic playing a big part in a slow lap here for Paletti. And Paletti really needs to, of course, maximize safety points as well. That's what Nick Terrell's been doing on the season, although Paletti actually was the one who had the most advantage last week. Last week in the GTPs, the only driver with 0 incidence points was Nicholas Paletti, and he finished on the podium as well. Nick Terrell only able to get 4 bonus points from that race, as well as Paul Skip, John Kelly, and Jay Smart. Rosenbaum again pressuring Jesse Coffey. Coffey's been able to defend into the Tamburello chicane without doing defending. I mean, just driving and not flinching. We'll see if he's able to do it again here. Rosenbaum swings to the inside, just doesn't have. He wants to have the space to make the move, but there's no room. It's a long straight, but the draft just doing absolutely nothing for Sheldon Rosenbaum into the Tamburello chicane. Jesse Coffey can breathe a little easier, as I think at this point probably the drivers are understanding that they need to make a mistake to give the driver the position behind. That's easier said than done. As Greg Holland maybe getting around. Oh, that looks like Dan Barnett, I think, letting him by there, yeah. But easier said than done to just not make a mistake as a car's breathing down your neck, but that does seem to be the winning strategy as far as defense here in this race. Now, surely Jesse Coffey would want to try to catch up to those drivers in front, not lose too much time from behind, but and that got very close. Rosenbaum really close into that braking zone of Aqua Minerale. It's a tight spot to be really riding somebody's bumper. There's a couple different ways you can take that corner, but surviving through Variante Alta, but maybe just trying to pressure Jesse Coffey into making a mistake, knowing that that's the only way he's going to be able to probably get by. We haven't seen many passes made on pace so far in this race. Very few passes up at the front at all. Really, the only passes in the top 7 being just that one mistake that Jesse Coffey made to give the spots to Langenberg and Rowe. Jay Smart's going to get by both of these guys, no sweat. And so far, no sweat for his race as well. 7.8 seconds back Another interesting thing to follow is the fuel, of course. He said, Jay Smart was saying he didn't know if he'd make it to the end. He did pit early, but I thought that was a strategy thing. He was out. He had run out of fuel and had to do fuel saving on that second half. And so while he was doing that very tough defense from Paul Skip, he was also going to have to do some fuel saving that the other drivers didn't have to as much. So he'll have that in mind for today, really trying to not stress himself out too much late in the race. But we nearly saw him succumb to Paul Skip's charge at the end with some struggles with the fuel. So we'll see when the drivers come in today. Paletti and Paul Boyle, who is not here today, were the two drivers that were able to, they were the two drivers that were able to take it 2 laps longer than Jay Smart was able to. The rest 1 lap after. Rosenbaum lets Paletti by. Paletti's going to get through at the apex of Aqua Minerale. Is that enough to get? It's slow, but I don't know if that's enough for Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum may try to make a move into Alta here. This is one of his best opportunities yet. 2/10 still, though. I don't think it's close enough. He's just going to have to follow. Frustrating scenes for Sheldon Rosenbaum's Ferrari here as he's just staring the back of Jesse Coffey's BMW. He's always running, and nothing he's able to do to get by. Nick Terrell slips on by and does so without losing any pace. He has now dropped the gap to Paletti to about under 2 seconds now. Is he going to be able to continue that charge? Now 1.6 seconds, as I think Paletti was slowed down there on the exit of the second Ravazza. Can he close up this gap to get up to second? He was being threatened by Paul Skip not that long ago, and all of a sudden he's flipped the script and trying to get up here to second. With Paletti 2 points back from Nick Terrell, this right here is enough to swap their position in the standings. And Greg Holland getting a spot on Dan Burnett. Again, I think he already had, so he must have lost the spot, regained it there. Looks like they're not close anymore. See that replay. Holland getting the spot. Not sure what. I think Barnett maybe giving it to him again. Yeah, so I don't know how he lost the spot. I guess we can see here. Here's Barnett claiming the position. Oh, off track. Wasn't flagged off track, but into the sand pit for Greg Holland, just losing a little bit of time. Nick Terrell, aggressive move there to continue to close up on Paletti. 1.3 seconds now. And the draft is more effective in these GTPs. We've seen it be a little bit more helpful, at least, than the GT3s. Coming into that chicane was 1.1 seconds, a little bit slower out. But you can see on the gap that it's rising a little bit. James Foreman now closing in on Aaron Claybaugh was 7 seconds gap, I think, not that long ago, and move may be done very soon here. Will Claybaugh's just giving it to him. Claybaugh understanding that the move is going to be made eventually, but as I say that, I mean, it's been difficult for drivers with even more pace to really get around, so I think Claybaugh could have probably tried to defend that there, ultimately deciding not to. Still early in this race, but he unfortunately may not see that position again, at least the position from James Foreman. Foreman, a very rarely or the driver rarely making mistakes, especially this season. It's been a very consistent finish, so not that earlier was a mistake, so get together with Zach Nuremberger, but not likely to see him make have a couple errors in the race that take him out. So I think after that one setback, we may see him really, batter down the hatches and get a lot stronger here at the end. He's already flying through the field, getting up 6, which is not really accurate. He's more up 8 at least through this field. 8, 9, 10. I mean, he was back, I think, in 17th at one point. So from 17th up to now 8th place, but 18 seconds to go to Sheldon Rosenbaum in front, who's not getting sped up as he continues to try to get the spot from Coffey, but Coffey defending admirably. We've seen some strong defenses on the season from these GTDB guys, from A-class drivers. Again, they have absolutely no obligation to give up the spot, nor reason. The positions are 4 points, so if Jesse Coffey loses this spot to Sheldon Rosenbaum, he gets less points on the race. It's just that at the end of the day and at the end of the season, he's being held against different drivers than Sheldon Rosenbaum is, but the points for the race still matter. And but especially the B-class guys, we've seen some stout defenses, some really stone-faced defenses from guys like Nathan Westland and Zach Nurnberger, Kevin Bergquist, and now we have Jesse Coffey here, who's defended from a good number of guys and catching up to Travis Rowe. And I don't know what has happened to Rowe to where this, it wasn't close before. So I don't know. I mean, the last lap, Rowe was 3 seconds slower. Is there an issue with the car? I mean, does he have some damage we don't know about? Or was it just one corner? We had an off track for Todd Schneider. See what happened to him here. It looks like he's coming into the Tamburello and just too fast. Able to get out of the sand. To get the sand a lot easier to get stuck in than it used to be. Changing the properties of that a couple seasons ago, maybe, for the off-track surfaces, reducing their grip, and does help keep the drivers out of the wall. I mean, we've only seen one driver unfortunately hit the wall, and that was a kind of an odd way to find it. Here they head through Aqua Minerale as you have an onboard, and you can see the big uphill obscures a lot of what's going on down the track, but also just a difficult set of, I think what is technically 3 corners, 11, 12, 13. Little more simple into Variante Alta, and Jesse Coffey continues to close up on Travis Rowe. Does Rowe, I mean, what is happening to his pace right now? He's fallen back from Langenberg more. The times that we've generally seen these guys up at around this position doing right now are the high 44s. Again, last lap was a 47.5 for Travis Rowe. Let's see what this lap is. If this is another lap that looks a little bit weak, which 3 sectors were slower than Coffey there. Have to wonder what's going on. 44.6 for Langenberg, and Travis Rowe with a 45.1, so a couple tenths slower from Coffey, who can't really get much more than a couple tenths faster, or else he's going to be passed. But he's experiencing what he's been able to do to drivers behind so far in this race, as he just couldn't get by into the Tamburello chicane there. GTP's Paul Skip right now, as I'm speaking, catching up to Nick Terrell a bit. And they don't really have a lot of traffic that they're dealing with. I think Terrell may be getting slowed down by that GT3 there, but they're kind of on the opposite end of the track from the majority of the cars currently. A couple of drivers that are over by them right now. They're getting by Barnett and Holland with Nürnberger ahead, but after that, I mean, it's a big 14-second gap. Jesse Coffey all over the back of Travis Rowe, just trying to get him to blink, but Rowe's not doing it. Being said, Rowe still slower in all of these sectors. Zach Nürnberger into the pits. Oh, and nearly going deep by Coffey. Is that going to be a spot for Sheldon Rosenbaum? Surely he's got the advantage. He's got to take the inside. A mistake is all that he needed to happen. Can he get it done on the brakes? Hard on the brakes, and Coffey, unfortunately, is going to lose another spot due to a very minor error. But that is why Rosenbaum was following so close, because that's all that he needed to pounce. Coffey trying to get the spot back. Less than a tenth, but the Ravazzas are not a passing opportunity. He's just trying to pressure him here. Yeah, doesn't even try to send it down the inside. Maybe he'll try to stay close here down the straight. Does the BMW have some magical straight line speed? Is that why he's been able to stay ahead of this group? He was leading the train for a long while, but not a strong exit through Ravazza 2 compared to Rosenbaum, and I don't think we're going to be able to see a move there. So Rowe able to breathe a little bit easier, as Coffey, just a slight mistake. Let's take a look at that incident again. Rosenbaum passing Coffey. You can see a little bit of a squirm, and not only did Coffey go a little bit deep into Aqua Minerale, but struggled to get on the throttle, trying to escape that, because I think he's got a little bit of sand on those tires. But a nice move for Sheldon Rosenbaum to take that 6th place spot. So now with over a third of the race elapsed, we are going to take a few-minute break, keep this action on screen, and see if some of these gaps start to close up a little bit as we have a few guys starting the chase. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back. We have some close battling here. Rosenbaum close with another driver. Now Travis Rowe. He's closed up on him through the last few laps here. We also had a pit stop for Nick Terrell there. So Nick Terrell clearly getting stuck on the two-stop strategy. We've seen the one-stop work. It's been tough, but that's been on other tracks. So maybe a little bit more fuel usage required here, already abandoning the attempt to go for the one-stop. And, of course, if you know you're going to have to do two, splitting it up like this where you do 3 more equally linked stints does mean you're going to lose less time if you switch tires or the ability to change tires in both stops, as opposed to if drivers out here are trying to do one and then last second they're switching because they can't make it happen. They're going to have a last splash and dash. They're only going to have 1 tire change for the entire race. So Nick Terrell may be planning on 2. We have the 3D curbs, I believe, here. And I know that in the first week of this officials season that the GTP drivers especially were suffering some immense wear through this lap, through this track. And they were getting down to the point where they were actually popping tires, running out of tread entirely on just officially linked races, which this 90-minute race is a pretty long one compared to most of the officials. So interesting to follow and see if drivers start to struggle, as we have not had most of them pit so far. But if we look at the guys up front, it's been mixed. Jay Smart right now is crushing it out front in the GTPs. His best lap is a 130.3, with his last being a 130.1. Meanwhile, Paletti, his best is a 130.5, so not that far off the best, but his last lap was a 133.2. So I don't know if traffic potentially came into play there, but 3 seconds off fastest lap is a big amount down. Speaking of gaps coming down, Jack Lucas there in third. A little bit of a quiet race after Jesse Coffey fell back a little bit and he wasn't threatening him as much. It looks like Josh Doty is struggling mightily behind that Audi right now, and Lucas is closing up on him quickly. It was 9 tenths when I brought attention to it. Now it's down to 5 tenths as we saw Doty go wide through Variante Alta, and Ken Huber continues to step away through the field down to almost 3 seconds ahead of Doty. So Lucas already the leader of GTDB in this race, looking not to just be in his overall podium, but to be in overall second place. Early on the season right now, he's in third place for the GTDB drivers, 7th overall. Some really valuable points could be gained here on Jesse Coffey and James Foreman, who James Foreman, while 20 seconds back, is just 1 spot back from Jesse Coffey currently. We have not had any pits for strategy. Zach Nuremberger out of this race, by the way, having VR troubles. So I don't know if that's maybe what was causing some of the issues earlier on in the race, but having the troubles now regardless, so he is stepping out of this race. We now have 5 DNFs, all in that GT3 class, 3 of those guys being A-class drivers. Another wide exit for Doty. He's losing some more time to Lucas. It's not enough to give him a spot. But Doty, has he blown his tires already? Is he well past he goes wide a little bit there. I don't think that was out of control. I think he's more just taking the racing line as he was. But we saw a big struggle for him last lap through Variante Alta. So they're coming up on it now. Does he have the same kind of issue here this time? Jay Smart's coming into the pits. Nicholas Paletti coming into the pits. They are not going to be stretching it for a one-stop race for sure. Better exit there. Still testing those track limits, Josh Doty is. And not all that much faster than Jack Lucas behind. Didn't really seem to gain on the exit through there. But Lucas, right now, looking a little smoother. Paul Skip into the pits as well. So all the drivers in GTP sticking to that two-stop. I guess John Kelly's not into the pits yet, but we may see him come in here on this lap. Doty's slower in almost every sector over that last lap than Jack Lucas, with the exception of Sector 4, the only one where he was able to pull away a little bit. To be fair, very close through most of them. But Lucas just chipping away a little bit here on him. Jay Smart's going to be the first guy out. We're seeing him with a 42.6 second stop. What kind of stop do we see from those other guys? Nick Terrell Nick Terrell's jumped to the lead. What an undercut that was. I saw him fly up past Paletti and Skip. He has now jumped to the lead of this race with an undercut. He's on the exact same strategy as these other guys. He pit. That is, okay, well, to be fair, all right. Calm down a little bit. 29-second stop for Nick Terrell on that last pit stop. So, not taking all the fuel that he needed. Taking his shorter stop here at the start of this race. So, calm down a little bit. He has a 13-second pit stop advantage over these guys, and you have to factor that in. So, I do think that he is still back there in, I think, a net P3. Obviously, Jay Smart right behind him on track. I mean, Jay Smart's not going to be happy, especially if he catches up and has to try to make his way around. But Nick Terrell not here in net P1. But interesting strategy call to do that. We've seen him a couple races this season take his short stop early. It does add a little bit of excitement to the booth before realizing the total pit stop time. But right now, did we do it? By the way, Travis Bell, coming into the pits, I think to fix the car earlier on, the 7.5-second stop. So if you got any fuel, I was just topping off from an earlier incident. Sheldon Rosenbaum looks to be our first pit stop for strategy here. Was very close, trying an undercut. We're not quite to the halfway point, but I imagine he's got the fuel to make it happen, especially because he's probably going to be exiting the pits here after that halfway point. Getting some tires, Rosenbaum. The entire field makes their way by in the pits. And another stop there further back for Todd Schneider. So Rosenbaum dropped down, just getting an idea of how long we're expecting on these pit stops. They've currently been in the pits for just now 30 seconds as far as the pit stop time, 33.5. So that is a benchmark time for a strategy pit stop for Sheldon Rosenbaum. Shouldn't have to stop again on this race. We're going to hit the halfway point in 10 seconds. So the driver's able to stretch it on a one stop here. The GTPs, though, not able to do that. Only in the GT3 class can they make that happen. And slower cars, larger fuel tanks, different setups for the regulations for the fuel and all that. But in some of the recent races, the GTPs have been able to do one stop. Jay Smart dealing with traffic and, of course, dealing with Nicholas Terrell, sorry. Trying to get by. But it's going to be tough to do it on track. At least the GT3s have been difficult to make a pass on track. Jay Smart has definitely had the fastest car in the race. He's got the fastest lap for the field, which is about 0.6 better than Nick Terrell's fastest lap was. And, of course, qualified with the best time, about half a second up. Of course, it's also frustrate Jay Smart a little bit because he's going to be losing out on laps led here due to Paletti's strategy, but he's preventing him from the Grand Chelem so far. Looking back in the GTDs, Jesse Coffey is close with Travis Rowe, and we have not Mauricio brought up, but Sheldon Rosenbaum somewhere around this battle right here. 6/10 only separating these two guys. Rosenbaum taking that early stop, trying an undercut, and seeing if he's going to be able to make that pass happen through the pits. It's very possible. I mean, it's been so hard for these drivers to get by on track. I can't imagine there's any better strategy than doing that. I'm surprised that we didn't see someone like Jack Lucas attempt that, who was very close to Josh Doty, especially at one point. He's still within a second right now, but had really been giving Josh Doty a hard time, and actually through the exit there caught up some more as well. Pit stop for Dan Barnett. Past halfway point now. Paul Skip, and this is for position. Keeping it close with Nicholas Paletti. Similar pit stop times for both those guys. 42.7 and a 42.8 for Paletti and Skip respectively. Coming up some poorly timed traffic. Tyler Langenberg there, and Paletti not getting by at that point. Only 2/10 separating him. Josh Doty into the pits. He is going to counter a potential undercut for Jack Lucas. Can Jack Lucas make an overcut work? I don't know how many laps he has to try to make that happen. Travis Rose into the pits as well. And Jesse Coffey was trying to chase down that position. Can Jesse Coffey make the overcut work? It doesn't usually work as well as the undercut does, so probably good strategy calls for both those drivers to keep that from happening. Skip very close to Nicholas Paletti. Nothing able to happen. Jay Smart within a tenth from Nick Terrell right now. Frustratingly stuck behind. I mean, he had about a 10-second a day. Is he going to make it happen here? He's got enough to deserve room. He can't get it done in Alcom and Raleigh. He had a 10-second advantage, I believe, on Paletti before. So he had a lot in hand to give up, but he looks to be losing a little bit of pace right now. It's got to be frustrating for him. Travis Rowe, James Foreman into the pits as well. Doty's on the exit. And where does this going to place him? He's going to be 6th overall. Currently the top runner of the driver's drive pit. Travis Rowe, a slower stop, 34.4 in his pit box. And Rosenbaum jumps him. So good decision for Rosenbaum to pit when he did, because he made that undercut work on Travis Rowe. And he's hopefully going to say goodbye to him in his rearview mirror there. But we've seen the drivers stay close to each other so far this race. Foreman on the exit of his pits. He gets his done easily. Travis Bell sitting there 9th. Keep in mind, we'll have to pit again. He's only had one short little stop, I think, at the start of this race. Lap 4. So Bell will be in again, unfortunately. 9th place, not a bad spot for him to be right now. But he's got some more work to do to actually finish in that spot. The top 3 all coming in their pits. Huber, Lucas, Langenberg. Interesting to see here. Lucas is the one trying to, and Jesse Coffey as well. Lucas may be trying to get up to Josh Doty's kind of position. Did the overcut work for him. You see all 4 drivers of Holland, Langenberg, Lucas, and Huber there in that picture. And Jesse Coffey there sliding into his box right now as we speak. Huber with a 30.3, again, shorter than everybody, except for Lucas. Lucas nearly a Huber-level pit stop. That is an interesting development. Most of the drivers at 33 seconds, a 31.1 for Langenberg as well. Well known for being able to manage the fuel. But Lucas is currently going to be coming out in 2nd place in the overall standings. Aaron Claybaugh here's in 3rd, but he has not come in for his pit stop yet. So he still needs to stop. This is not a net position that he's got. But Lucas has not just passed Josh Doty, but done so by a couple seconds. You see him in the background. He's not way far back there, but he is there, just 2 seconds back. And the easiest pass that Jack Lucas will make tonight, because the on-track passes have not been easy. Skip experiencing that himself right now. He's been glued to the back of Paletti's car, and we haven't seen any attempts made yet. Not even able to get close enough to battle. Need a bit of DRS, some push to pass, some overtake system in these cars. It's just they just need a little bit of an oomph down some of these straights to allow some of this battling. I mean, these corners can be fought side by side through some of them, but you have to get side by side first, and the drivers are just unable to get there, and that's what's been so difficult. Flashing his lights very early to Jesse Coffey, but he's obviously in a bit of a tense situation. Paletti is. Got Paul Skip behind him. And right now, they're also trying to keep pace with whatever's going on with Nick Terrell. But Nick Terrell, if he has a 13-second loss in the next stop to the rest of the drivers, he's going to stay in 2nd place. So his strategy was a bit, which, by the way, Jay Smart making his way by. So Jay Smart has officially passed Nick Terrell. You can see here's where the official move was done. Stuck his nose in there, got aggressive, and actually Terrell not happy probably to earn that off track. But, of course, a little silly to be defending it too hard on a totally different strategy. But that being said, he has kept good enough pace here at the start, and with maybe having a different tire strategy than the rest, to be able to, I think, probably comfortably come out in 2nd after the 2nd pit stop here. So we'll see if that's actually how it works out. Jesse Coffey is promoted as Aaron Claybaugh finally comes into the pits. So Claybaugh taking it the longest of everybody. Everybody has now come in for their stop. He's slipping back a few more positions here. Jesse Coffey behind Travis Rowe by 9 seconds. That's Travis Rowe on screen right there. But still second place in the GT3Bs. Jack Lucas up to second overall. Very well done. And only 2.6 seconds off Ken Huber. Not something you can usually say after a pit stop halfway through the race with Ken Huber. He's usually leading now by 6 or 7 seconds. But Lucas doing a very strong job today. And not just that, the only driver in the Mercedes. It's one of the best standing cars in this GT3 pack, and he is and it used to be the most popular car, I would say, that we had in the field for a time, that or the Porsche, and yet today we see just one Mercedes in the field, but he's maybe making a few drivers regret that decision to not pick it, because he's making it work well for him here today, and it's looked quite planted as well. We haven't seen some of the slidiness that some of the other cars around him have had. He's looked more under control than most of the rest of the drivers. And he catch up to Ken Huber. It'll be a difficult ask. On the last lap, was faster by a couple tenths. You can see a lot of that was gained at the start of the lap. Sectors 1 and 2, about a tenth each for Jack Lucas, and then another tenth in Sector 4, but evenly matched there on that lap. You see the lap times in comparison trading throughout this race, and of course some traffic affecting probably some of these laps. But right now, looking good for Jack Lucas to not only score another win on the season, but to have a huge point advantage over all the drivers behind, which one of the drivers is James Foreman, who is continuing to climb up the ranks. And this position's not really for strategy. It would be nice if he's able to lose as little time getting past Travis Bell as possible. Travis Bell still needing to come into the pit again. We would probably be expecting him very soon. We saw Aaron Claybach come in as late as lap 29. And so 33 would be the longest we probably expect Travis Bell to be able to go in this race. And that's if he's doing some pretty heavy fuel saving, I think. So in the next couple laps, we'll see him make his final stop in this race, and it should shake things out a little bit better. Jesse Coffey will have appreciated that one position spot that he had between him and James Foreman, but that'll go away. And again, Foreman, last race was his first absence on the season, so only 1-0, and with 3 drop weeks, of course, able to cancel out some of those. He had a slow start to this season, only 26 points each in the first 2 rounds at Daytona and Sebring, which, to be fair, a lot more cars, so more positions to be beaten by, was especially with all the A-Class drivers who you expect to finish ahead, of course, of the B-Class drivers. Does not always end up being the case. But the gap is slowly, it went down a little bit over that last race from Jesse Coffey getting that victory. But Coffey will be hoping for, as we see Travis Bell go in there, we'll be hoping for more points gained on James Foreman tonight than just one position. That'll make it a little bit difficult to swallow. Coffey himself only 1 missed race as well. He missed the Coda round a few weeks ago. Jack Lucas, leader for the B-Class. 1 missed race himself. Missed the Silverstone race, which that was a wild race. So definitely a sad race to miss, because that was an exciting race that we had. Oh, and he also missed Indy Road Course. So 2 misses, and I was looking at the wrong row there. He missed the Indy Road Course, and he missed Twin Ring. So 2 misses on his record. It's hard to come back. I mean, you've got enough drop weeks to cover that, of course, but it does mean that you can make less mistakes. You can't have a bad race if you're using your drop weeks on ones that you actually miss. So we'll see how that spells for him at the end of the season. Again, currently the leader in that battle for 3rd with Nathan Westland, who's not here today, and Kevin Berquist, who was here but didn't take the start. So obviously he's going to come out on top of those guys. Can he join this battle with Jesse Coffey, who's a couple spots in the overall standings ahead of him and 1 spot ahead of him in B-Class? He's going to gain a ton of points if these 4 drivers of Doty through Rowe actually do finish in between these 2. We've seen gaps in B-Class like this go. It's been interesting. We've seen that before. We've seen B-Class drivers up at the top of the field stay well ahead of, multiple 5 positions, 6 positions ahead of the next B-class driver. But by the end, some of the A-class drivers maybe make mistakes. Maybe there's a wrong strategy call, and they start to get bunched up closer together. And they've been close through the whole season, competitive-wise. We may see it close up here. But right now, Coffey does have a big gap to get to Travis Rowe in front. 10 seconds, now 11 seconds. James Foreman himself, 10 seconds to Jesse Coffey. So I wouldn't foresee that happening. But Josh Doty as well, trying to make something happen. He lost the spot through the pit stop cycle. And it was an unfortunate. It looked like he was struggling before that pit stop on the tires. Looks a little more planted now. But the Audi is a difficult car to drive. We've seen it be difficult. We got 2 guys in the top 4 driving it, so it is fast. Just a hard car to drive, I think. And he's going to be trying to catch up to Jack Lucas here to get to that. He's in second place A-class no matter what, but trying to get those second place overall points would be a huge boon to Doty, who wants to pull away from. Our top 3 in A-class are right there on track. Huber, Doty, Langenberg. That's our top 3 for the overall season standings, with Travis Rowe in 4th. Travis Rowe in 6th in this current race. Not that far back from Rosenbaum, but lost that spot through the pits as well. Jay Smart continuing to lead this race. 3 seconds back from the car of Nick Terrell, which is not really for position, because there's another 13 seconds of fuel in this Smart car that's not in Terrell's car. But a very healthy gap further back, which I believe that Terrell will be the car that's in second behind him after this next pit stop, but it'll be about 16 seconds or so once we get through the whole pit round. That's my estimate, at least. It may be a little bit less than that, but I don't think Nick Terrell's going to actually be this close unless something magical has happened with his pit. Oh, and by the way, Jack Lucas, speaking of magical, he's brought the gap to Ken Huber down to less than a second. Lap 31, Huber was faster. Lap 32, Huber was faster. What happened on lap, not even lap 33, what happened on this lap? Some mistake happening here. Didn't go off track. Nothing's being flagged as an off track for Huber. 7/10. This is much tighter than we normally see for Huber at this point in the race. Now we're 1 hour in, so just 30 minutes to go. 6/10 back, but unfortunately we're past the pit stops, and Jack Lucas is going to be experiencing the same problems that I think we've seen everybody else have, where he's just not able to get by. He wasn't able to get by Josh Doty for a long while until he was able to do it through the pit stops. I don't even know if we've really seen Ken Huber make a mistake since last season. So can he bet on Huber making a mistake? I feel like it's just got to come down to some chaos from lapping traffic or something for Huber to slip up, as far as just what we've seen in this 11 race win streak. But right now, Lucas giving him a really strong challenge, one of the best challenges he's had on the season, and not even from an A-class driver to boot. Through Tosa. No advantage to either guy. Let's check these sectors, get an idea maybe where the advantage is going. So Huber a little bit slower through Sector 1, through Tamburello and Villeneuve, and then slightly, basically the same amount faster through the second sector, Tosa, Paratella, now through Acqua Minerale. Any advantage to either of these drivers? Gap staying about 8/10, 7/10 between the two. Another 10th faster for Huber into Variante Alta. Get very smooth on the steering wheel for Jack Lucas, looking comfortable there. He knows that overall race win is looking at him. We've had B-class win overall on a handful of occasions. It has not happened very often in the past. And B-class has been around for a while. It's been maybe 4, 5 seasons potentially. And it's not been often that a B-class guy has been able to get that overall win. But Huber being pushed late and almost going off track there as well. I have to wonder what the incident points look like for some of these guys. Easy to push out wide in some of these corners. I think you're generally safe from, again, wrecking, but easy to pick up a couple off tracks in some of these exits. Ravazza 2 being a very prime opportunity to do so. Under half a tenth half a second, excuse me. Under half a second there for 1 second to Ken Huber. And under half a second again. So Huber's slower in that first sector consistently from the Mercedes of Jack Lucas. Is he going to pull ahead here in the second sector again through the apex of Tosa? And Lucas is not just based on the numbers, but he is visually very, you can tell he's closer to Huber. Huber not pulling away as much as he lost in that first sector. He's visually closer through these shots to Ken Huber, though I think it's starting to pull away a little bit back to what it was last lap. Through Aqua Minerale, up the uphill. This is a very strong drive for Jack Lucas. He unfortunately just has a big task ahead of him if he wants to get that one more position. Second place overall, wonderful to be there, but to get that first place spot is going to be a big ask. They're coming up on a lapped car of Greg Holland, not Greg Holland, excuse me, I believe that's Dan Barnett. Coming up on that lapped Porsche of Dan Barnett. Greg Holland out of this race, actually, which might be related to this latest incident they had. So let's take this replay real quick, as they have about a second between the top two there. I don't know if there was an incident before that. Looks like there was a couple. Let's see, this started it. I think that's Ravazza 2. Oh, and that's a big wallop on the wall. And it looks like, yeah, maybe struggling to get back on track. Yeah, couldn't get it. Just a big wide turning radius. I think he tries to get it repaired, and he does, because his car was fixed when we saw him leave the race. But yeah, I don't know what caused that. And Lucas is 3 seconds back. I don't know what happened. Lucas is now more worried about Josh Doty behind it. Look away for one replay. 1.5 seconds slow in Sector 1, where Jack Lucas has had the advantage on Ken Huber. I mean, it was going to be a difficult pass to make, of course, but that's a golden opportunity to be safely ahead of Josh Doty. Now gets a little bit more sketchy. I don't know if maybe it had to do with the lap in traffic. I doubt it. I mean, Dan Barnett's been pretty passive about letting guys by, especially given that they'd be having some blue flags. Todd Schneider now out of this track. We just had this incident right now. Todd Schneider looks like he's coming in the Tamburello chicane. We saw him go deep a few laps ago. This time going deep and just quitting out. So we've had a lot of DNFs tonight, and not a lot of them have been from actual crashes. It's been some frustration, I think, here at this circuit. It's been a difficult race. It's a hard racetrack. It's very demanding. It's demanding on the car and the driver. And it's getting to some of these guys, I think, right now. We now have 7 guys out of this race. Kevin Bergquist didn't take the start, so I guess really only 6 DNFs. One of them, at least we know, with Zach Nuremberger, was due to some hardware issues. But a lot of the other drivers seem to be just having a frustrating time. All right, with now 24 minutes or so to go in this race, we're going to take another break. Be right back with you as we get close to the second pit stop time for this GTP class. All right, we're back. And we have a pit stop that we've seen already from Nick Terrell. Josh Doty was a little closer to Jack Lucas at one point, and has now dropped back a little bit as Lucas has steadied himself after the whatever mistake happened in Sector 1 as he was chasing down Ken Huber. Right now, 1.5, 1.6 seconds back to Josh Doty. Tyler Langenberg not that far back, the other driver in the Audi tonight. And close enough to pounce if the opportunity arises. Meanwhile, Nick Terrell has made his pit stop, so Nick Terrell's done with his pit strategy. John Kelly has made his last stop as well, so we're still waiting on the top 3 guys in GTP to come in and see if Terrell's timing of his pits really benefited him or not. Terrell pitting on lap 44. It's been 4 laps. All the other drivers pit on lap 27. They're still staying out. Also looking at the pit time, you see the last stop for Nick Terrell, 25 seconds. So he has the short stop, and that's actually a little interesting because his first stop was short as well. So the second stop short too. What does this mean for the other guys? Are they going to be even shorter? Are they going to be a really short stop here? I mean, John Kelly was 8 seconds, so maybe that's kind of what we would expect. I'm a little confused here. Well, we have a quick stop for Nick Terrell there. We'll see if that does anything to get him into the conversation for first place. He was falling back from J Smart on track. Where is this strategy going to put him? I'm interested to see. We're not that far away from the drivers having to come in at this point. But J Smart staying out. And Smart was eluded from the win for much of this season. Despite the fact that he had a couple pole positions. He had 2 pole positions coming into last race. And last race was his 3rd pole position, but 3rd time's a charm for him. Able to win it from pole, leading nearly every lap that race. And it was also his 3rd podium. So he's been able to show out strong in qualifying. Some of the race results have unfortunately slipped away from him, but he has been on form as of late. This is today was pole position number 4. He's trying to get 2 wins in a row. Paletti and Skip are the only other drivers with 2 wins on the season, trying to get his 4th podium. And even in the fastest laps category, he's had the fastest lap at Red Bull Ring. He had the fastest lap at Twin Ring last week. Oh, Josh Doty, is he making the move on Jack Lucas? He is. Jack Lucas may have made a mistake in Aqua Minerale. Doty, they have very strong defense there. What happened to Jack Lucas? I can't, unfortunately, replay not going far back enough, but I have to imagine it was the exact same thing. Oh, and they really got together there as Doty moved a little bit too far left there. But have to imagine it was the same thing we saw from Jesse Coffey earlier, just going a little bit deep on the brakes. And Jack Lucas, who's still having a fantastic race, loses a little bit of points back to his competitors of Coffey and Foreman now. Still on that overall podium, still in first for GTDB, but unfortunately a difficult race over the last 10 laps or so for Jack Lucas here. Lap 50 now for the guys up front. Now 6 laps since Nick Terrell's pit stop. What is this going to do for the rest of the field? Lucas, unfortunately, not going to be able to make it easy to get back around Josh Doty if he's got the pace even. He was able to pull away, and Doty caught up a little bit. Looks like probably a mistake is what, again, has been the story of tonight. The only way to get around is making mistakes, but luckily, a lot of ways to make mistakes here on this track. It's very difficult. One of the more difficult on the calendar. So I think as opposed to, we saw drivers struggling to get by at Twin Ring and not as difficult of a track there. More places for a driver to make an error. And I think that's probably right there in that corner, I think, is where we saw, or where Jack Lucas probably went a little bit deep. Looks like he had a better exit, and didn't matter. Better exit out of Aqua Minerale, as I think Doty had clobbered that curb a little bit harder than he wanted to. Still not enough to lose him the spot, but Ken Huber is just going to continue to drive down the road, and he's now got the customary 5+ second gap. Jay Smart with the fastest lap of the race. Have to expect a pit stop for him soon if that's the case. He's probably running very low on fuel. but a 130.2. Wondered if any of the guys would be able to get into the 29s in this race or not, but it looks like they're just a little bit off of that. Currently, the fastest lap for the GT3s, I believe, is held by Josh Doty with a 144.05. No other driver. Oh, excuse me, Adrian Garcia from that early stint. We saw him break into the 143s on one of the first few laps even. It was while battling was still going on, so I guess using a bit of a draft, even though it hasn't been enough to get people to make an overtake. It was enough to get into those 43s we saw a long time ago. So Garcia out of this race, but does hold the fastest lap, so is able to take home something. The other two Lamborghini drivers outside of Ken Huber, both out of this race, Wyckoff and Garcia. Some drivers have attempted to replicate what Huber does there up there at the front, but hasn't gone to plan most of the time this season. Lucas pressuring Doty. Doty, will he blink? Will he make a mistake? He hasn't made a mistake yet. But we saw the tires go out on him in that first stint. So with 12 minutes still to go, his car looked planted through Aqua Minerale. They got the Paletti GTP sliding through. Paul Skip just 2 seconds back. That battle's still going on, but they're just not close enough to be on track. But Langenberg now catching up to this pair. Not what Jack Lucas wants. This two-person battle is now about to become three, and then Lucas is going to be on the unenviable position of having to look ahead and, one, not run into Josh Doty, but maybe try to take advantage of some slight mistake. But also, oh no, Tyler Langenberg there. Speaking of slight mistakes, very wobbly out of the second Ravazza. Lucky to keep it going straight, but that will ease Jack Lucas a little bit. Bad spot to make a mistake as well, because he's going to be losing all the way down the straight. Look at that, 2.5 seconds. It was only half a second, 0.6 back from Jack Lucas. Now 2.5 seconds just from one mistake of throttle input. John Kelly having an incident just now. Yeah, just getting into that grass. Looks like into the Tamburello chicane, trying to maximize the track on the entry. But there's not a curb on the entry on the exit, so or the outside of that entry. So it's just grass. It's tempting to push out wide. That's how you go fastest. But a mistake like that, not strange to see. Lap 52. Not a lot more left in this race. 10 minutes. Expecting, 6 or 7 more laps for the GTPs. Jay Smart still running fast out there at front with a 130.6. None of the other drivers in the last lap were able to put in 130s at the very least. Actually, that lap that Smart did, despite being 0.4 off his fastest lap, is faster than any lap that any other driver's done so far in this race. So I think Smart may be safe up at front, unless the strategy of Nick Terrell really is that much better. But the gap between Nick Terrell and Jay Smart right now is very large. I don't think it's enough for him to make that up with strategy alone. And unfortunately, Jack Lucas' strategy is no longer a factor. It's all on track. Everyone's made their stops. So the pass has to be done on track as we get to about 8.5 minutes. He's been close. He hasn't closed up. I don't think he's made Doty sweat too much. Oh, and maybe a little bit Doty making a mistake as he clobbers the curb, and then Lucas clobbers the other curb. Is he going to lose the spot to Langenberg? He had the healthy gap behind. Langenberg, is he going to get by? I think he is. Langenberg is going to get by into third. Jack Lucas, a very difficult last few laps. He's still, again, first to GTDB. It's a wonderful race that he's had, but I think there's some things he wish he could have back here over these last few laps. Jay Smart now coming in. We'll see how long this pit stop is. But let's take a look at that pass. Langenberg on Lucas again. Just couldn't get up to speed in time, and Langenberg able to make his way by easily. Here was Jack Lucas going off track, and Doty hits that first curb too hard. It takes, then if he had just hit that first sausage curb, I think Lucas would have been okay. But that second sausage curb really took him out. We'll take a look at what it would look like on board for him. Oh, it looked like a good line. Just got into that curb a little bit too much. And that's going to be some incident points as well, reducing his point total. So Jay Smart comes out slightly behind Nicholas Paletti, but Paletti has not pitted yet. And actually, Jay Smart's last stop here, 11 seconds. So, yeah, the second stop was shorter for Nick Terrell, but not as short as some of these other guys. And it does look like the 13 or so seconds was about correct on the advantage that he would gain. So I think Nick Terrell might be able to be still in second overall. He's not going to get up to first, up to Jay Smart's position. But we have those stops still to go. Jack Lucas just now slipping back to about a second back. So I don't know if we're going to see any more position swap in the GTD class. I'm interested just to see where the strategy shakes out the GTPs, but might not see a lot more changes in position over these last few laps. The race leader as it is, still expecting him to come into the pits unless he does something crazy with his fuel, which even if he did, he doesn't. There he goes. Coming into the pits. Let's see if Paul Skip does so on the same lap. He does. So both these guys stopping. Let's see where they come out in relation to Nick Terrell, who's been on a totally different pit strategy than the rest of the drivers. I mean, surely no tires on this one. I imagine, we didn't check, but I imagine Paletti taking tires on both stops given the amount of time. And yeah, not jacking up into the air for either car. It's 11 seconds for Smart, 8.8 for Paletti, so saving a bit more fuel than Smart up front, but the pace advantage that Smart's had has kind of nullified any advantage from that. Nick Terrell is flying up the side. He's going to pass easily. He's going to easily pass Nicholas Paletti. Paletti looked like he was standing still on track there as he was still waiting to get accelerated after the pit exit. Only 1.2 seconds. But with how difficult it's been to pass and the fact that he's already up to temperatures and Paletti's going to take a couple laps to really get into the groove, I think Nick Terrell has really nailed the strategy here. Qualified in third. It was going to be difficult to make a pass for position on track. We haven't really seen any mistakes by any of the GTP drivers. And strong showing within the strategy department for Nick Terrell to now show up in second place. 30 seconds back from Jay Smart. I don't think anyone was going to be able to touch Jay Smart here today as he's really shown a strong run of form. But to get second place here, and actually what's most key is that 5 seconds back to Paul Skip, even if Paletti comes up and battles a little bit with Nick Terrell, loses a little bit of time, I think that Paletti's going to be able to comfortably stay in third, which is exactly what Nick Terrell wants. Nick Terrell currently the second in the standings with 461, 5 points back from Paul Skip's 466. Skip finishing off the podium here would be just the second time on the season not finishing on the podium if he does indeed finish here in fourth. The only other race where he did so was Willow Springs. I think he basically bowed out of that one there early. He was just happy to take home the fourth place position. With drop weeks, this will be one of the drop weeks, as right now he does have a third place at Road America being dropped. But this does help Nick Terrell's case. Nick Terrell has one missed race. He has a fourth place and he has a fifth place on the books. This second place would mean another race added to his overall total. Catching up to Paul Skip here. This is getting interesting late in the season. And I'm curious to see what happens in these last few races. I mean, there's more than a few races. Last 6 races that we've still got. But it is heating up here. About almost 2/3 of the way through the season. And Nick Terrell's making this interesting. So he just needs to drive it home now. 3 minutes to go. Jay Smart 30 seconds ahead. So obviously the white flag is going to be based on him. He just crossed the finish line. So it looks like it's going to be 2 laps to go. Hopefully all the drivers accounting for what looks like it's going to be a bit of a late white flag. Yeah, because in minute 30, I think we'll get the white flag with only 20 seconds remaining here. GT3, nobody's stressing anyone else out. Ken Huber is going to make another win and continue his winning streak. Again, just a shocking number. I still need to check the Hall of Fame, but I believe that this is the longest race win streak that we've ever seen in endurance for amateurs. I'll try to double check that and fact check that by the next race. I also need to fact check if he potentially will have sealed up the championship at this point already. I mean, still a lot of races to go, but everything's a win. I mean, he's got drops on he's got 2 drops so far that are wins. He's got the most possible points, and he's maximizing safety points on the season as well. It's been a very incredible showing for Ken Huber on this season. A driver who's had some issues with mechanical stuff, internet stuff in the past. Nothing has been able to plague him so far this season, and it looks like it's going to be 12 straight wins, and not something that I don't think any driver's done in the league before. Not something that I think many of the drivers even have the capability to do. Only a select few names that I could imagine accomplishing that feat over the years of Pony Express. So we'll see if he takes it home here today. Not a lot left to go. Jay Smart, I believe, got the white, or would not have got the white flag. We'll have to keep an eye on the amount of time here. I may have miscalculated earlier. It's through Tosa right now with 50 seconds remaining. I think he'll hit the line again before we... So, yeah, I think he has not got the white flag yet. Dan Barnett, this is a couple laps ago, having an incident. Oh, he hit the curb just like we saw Jack Lucas do. Exactly the same, and actually a worse result as he tried to... He was on the brakes, but the car was not stopping in that sand, crashing into the wall, lightly at least, but that is why we have Dan Burnett in the pits there. So everyone from 11th back, well, at least Dan Burnett is back out, but 12th back out of this race, Dan Burnett with a crash. It has been a brutal race for the GT3 drivers. GTP seem to have handled it all right. We haven't seen any incidents, really, going off track, making mistakes, having a spin, and I must have been off of my count. Jay Smart, I think, is going to cross the line here for the victory. Jay Smart with another win. The wins were eluding him until last week, but he gets the victory last week. He gets the victory this week by 30 seconds, 2 wins in a row. What a performance for Jay Smart. On pole, got the victory, got the fastest lap. Incredible showing for him tonight. Nick Terrell, 8/10 back. He's going to be safe, I think, heading to the line. Played a different strategy than everybody else. Made it interesting. And Nicholas Paletti is going to be looking right at the back of his car as he's going to see a few more points lost to that second place overall driver. Nick Terrell coming in second tonight with Nicholas Paletti right behind him. Ken Huber further back in the field. How about halfway through the lap? He's got 3.7 seconds back. Just needs to finish it up here to make his 12th straight win out of 13 races. Only he got second place in the opening round. Since then has been an absolute tear. And he's going to continue that here tonight. Through Variante Alta, only has the Rivazzas to deal with. And he'll be coming home another victory for Ken Huber. Further back, Josh Doty with another strong performance to get another podium, and Tyler Langenberg, another championship contender up in those top spots, doing well to bring home the points. Jack Lucas is going to be the GTD winner. He already is, because all the other ones have finished behind him. So also, and Lucas catching up to Langenberg late. Is he going to make the move? Is Langenberg running out of fuel? He is not. I don't think he is. He's going to survive to the line. Only 2.5 tenths. He wasn't able to make it happen. Lucas saw that position almost happen for him. Ken Huber up at the front, though. Congratulations on that victory for him in that beautiful yellow Lamborghini. Another win for him. Jack Lucas with the win in the GTDB. All right, let's bring up our official results. Total results for tonight. Jay Smart with the second win in 2 races and the second win on the season comes away today as the victor here at Imola. Nick Terrell with a podium number 9 and Nicholas Paletti with podium number 11, leaving Paul Skip at only 10 podiums there in 4th. John Kelly crosses the line in 5th. Looking at our GTD class, Ken Huber with another win. That is win number 12. Only Eric Bellata able to grab a win on him and through the rest of the season, podiuming in every single race, with the 6th podium for Josh Doty there, and Tyler Langenberg earning his 4th podium on the season. Jack Lucas, the winner of GTDB, just 8 seconds off of the overall lead, and that is his 2nd win on the season. It was his 2nd pole position as well, and his 6th podium. Sheldon Rosenbaum, 5th overall with Travis Rowan 6th. Jesse Coffey earns himself podium number 6 as well. James Foreman, podium number 10, as he's been uber consistent this season. Aaron Claybaugh and Travis Bell round out the top 10. Dan Barnett up in 11th, Todd Schneider in 12th, and following them, Greg Holland, Zach Nurnberger, Adri Garcia, Mauricio Parada, and Matthew Wyckoff, with Kevin Berquist not taking the start. So we will look to the waiting room. We do have Jay Smart. I think that we didn't have him last week. Let's get him in the booth, hear from him here tonight. Jay, you hear me in the booth?
Yes, sir.
I don't think we heard from you last week. Last week was a first win on the season. You've had the pace in qualifying, and the win just seemed to elude you. A few podiums that you've been able to earn throughout the season. Now 2 wins in a row, both, again, pole position for both as well. Where's this string of form coming from?
I think I'm just remembering how to drive the Porsche again. These cars are really tricky to drive, especially under the brakes. They're really easy to lock up, and you just kind of skate for miles. And I've been driving GT3 a lot more, so switching back and forth is really difficult, which is why some of the races I switched into GT3 just to try to have some more fun in this league since it's such a bigger field. But now with these string of victories, I'm kind of wishing I'd stuck in the GTV the whole season, because I think I'm not even close in the championship fight, unfortunately.
Yeah, right now, standing at an overall total of 348, 118 back from Paul Skip. Is a big number. Drop weeks, of course, can help. But yeah, right now, I think you've missed 4 races in GTP, which will have 4 drops at the end of the season. So you still can finish the season with every race counted.
Yeah, there's a lot of races too, so that's good to hear. I didn't realize there were so many drops. Yeah, that's exciting then. You feel better about that win.
The other interesting thing to note as well, last week was the first time that you earned safety points from keeping the incident points low. I don't know what you were here today. I didn't see it make anything happen, so I imagine that you got a lot. Oh, you did? Okay, so never mind.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's really tricky on this track. I mean, seriously, good job to all the guys that had low incident points, especially on corner exits. Sometimes you just, once you hit the curb, it's not even like you want to drift wide. It just kind of pops the car over. So it was really tricky. Unfortunately, I couldn't really tell what was going on with strategies, since it seemed like you might be able to do one stop if you were fuel savings. And once I pulled a lead kind of early on, I thought that the guys behind me were fuel saving. So I tried fuel saving a bit, and then I decided to flip it and just go as hard as I can. And if they were fuel saving, try to get an extra pit stop on them, because I saw the lead opening. But in pushing like that, I just kept getting off tracks, like little ones on corner exits. So I think I ended up with maybe a 12x or something. Definitely lost out on the safety points.
Yeah, it was interesting. That's what I was going to ask, was because we've seen the one stop at least possible for most of the tracks this season. Nobody was able to make that happen here today. What were the characteristics of the circuit? Was just the amount of acceleration zones out of the chicanes maybe that was just burning your fuel?
Yeah, I think so. And I'd done some calculations. I didn't get a ton of data before in practice, but I ran some calculations, and it looked like you could have made a one stop work if you fuel saved a lot. I tried to hit that fuel per lap target in the race, and it was about 2 seconds slower lap. And that's why at that point I realized if you're gonna go 2 seconds slower lap, you'll easily get an extra pit stop out of it. So at that point, I just started pushing. But yeah, I don't know what the characteristics were, but it was definitely right on the cusp. Like it looked like, I mean, you saw at the end there. I think it was only 5 laps or less, maybe 5 minutes. So less than 5 laps on that last pit stop. And Nick played it well, where he did the 2 longer stints instead of a 2 shorter stints instead of a long and a super short one. I tried to do that, but I accidentally had my auto fuel on, and so it jumped back up to full fuel tank once I came into the pits. But it worked out anyway, so it's all good. But Nick had a seriously good strategy. I saw he bumped himself up with that.
Yeah, you're the hot driver of the moment. Next week coming up, we got Road Atlanta, another difficult circuit.
Oof.
Especially the traffic is going to be an event, I think. So
Yeah,
what kind of
that's a
preparation do you
hard
have
try.
coming up for next week?
I don't know. I'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't love that track. So probably just getting on and making sure that I can stay on track, because the grass and the short runoff really gets you on that course. So I think incident points are going to be a big problem again.
Well,
but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Congratulations on that win last week, earning the first win of the season. Now getting your second win here tonight, 2 in a row. Really great performances, and we hope to hear from you again, possibly next week at Road Atlanta.
Yeah. Thanks, CP.
Have a good night, Jay.
You too.
All right, that was our victor for GTP, Jay Smart. Now we're going to bring in our GTDB winner, Jack Lucas. Jack, you get me in the booth.
Hey, Zach.
That was an exciting race that you had there, not just early, but late as well. Obviously, qualifying up there in the top 3. We're running up in the top 3 very late, finishing, unfortunately, just 0.2 back there in 4th place. What was the story of the race for you tonight?
Yeah, I was. I ended up overcutting Doty, I believe. So I got up into second there for a little bit, and then Huber actually, I think he got a slowdown. So I ended up 0.6 back for a couple laps there. So I was staring overall win in the face for a little bit, but yeah, I got unlucky with some lap traffic and some GTPs sending in some spots I didn't really want. And yeah, I just had some sausage curb incidents that kind of set me back a couple places. But yeah, still happy with P1 and B class.
It looked really difficult for not just you, but any driver in the entire field, up and down, to be making any pass that didn't involve the driver in front making a mistake. Sometimes a small mistake. Was it getting frustrating behind the wheel? I know you were chasing Josh Doty for a while after it seemed like his tires were kind of going in that first stint.
Yeah, I didn't really see a good spot to pass, that would, not risk ruining both of our races. So I pretty much just bided my time. I saw him go into the pits, and once I saw him do that, I decided not to go into the pits myself so I could try and, get a lap of clean air. And that ended up working out. But yeah, I didn't make any passes on anyone, and no one made any passes on me that weren't just, going off track or a slowdown.
Yeah, we did not see many on track without mistakes, for sure, if really any. I think we maybe at the very start of the race we saw one. But coming into this race, you were 3rd place. You were in a tight battle with Westland and Berquist. Westland not here at this race. Berquist didn't take the start, so obviously taking the advantage over them. But catching up to Jesse Coffey and James Foreman ahead. You were 50 points back from Foreman starting tonight, 22 points back from Coffey. Still 6 races to go. And a couple strong performances here. You especially Coda. I mean, starting from Silverstone, Coda, Red Bull Ring, and tonight have all been really good points for you. Coming up, Road Atlanta. Do you expect that kind of momentum to continue?
I'm not sure. I like Road Atlanta quite a bit. I don't know if I'm fast relative to these guys, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Well, again, congratulations on another strong performance. That is a win number 2 for you on the season, pole position number 2 for you, and I think fastest lap number 4. So definitely getting all those fastest laps in. Congratulations on that win tonight, Jack.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good night.
Have a good night. And we do not have Ken Huber here in the booth, so we are not hearing from our 12th time in a row winner, although we have definitely heard from him. He's a familiar face up here in the booth. Congratulations on that win again for Ken Huber. So if you are here for the Endurance for Amateurs Racing, like mentioned, next week, Road Atlanta, one of my favorite tracks in the entire, not just the iRacing calendar, but just not just the E4A calendar, not just on iRacing service, but one of my favorite tracks of all time, Road Atlanta. So be here next week for some fun action between these two classes. And everyone, have a good night.